The Washington Post reporting today that federal prosecutors in the Tucson shooting massacre plan to move Jared Loughner's trial to California. But the Department of Justice telling us here at Fox News that's not true, that the suspect is set to face a jury in Arizona. But a judge will make the final decision if any change of venue request. So is relocating the trial a good idea? Let's bring in our legal panel, criminal defense attorney Kelly Saindon and former prosecutor Dan Conaway. Kelly, let me start with you. I talked to a former judge who said it would be reversible error to hold this trial in Arizona. You agree?
I absolutely agree. He's not going to get a fair trial in Arizona no matter what.
And the reason is an attack on a U.S. congresswoman, the murder of a federal judge, 6 killed, 14 injured, a massacre of enormous proportions.
Right. Absolutely. I mean, it's too personal for everyone there. It's still too fresh, raw. And not only the congressperson and the judge. I mean, there's a 9-year-old. There's a lot of innocent victims. Everyone can identify with going to a store. If you're in that area, you've probably been to that Safeway. It's really difficult to get someone who doesn't have strong opinions about this, especially that's in the community.
Dan, Judge Larry Allen Burns is a federal judge in San Diego. Now, he has been selected. Obviously, you couldn't have a federal judge in Arizona do it. Does that suggest to you that San Diego may end up being the venue here?
Well, Greg, yes. It could very well be San Diego because of that reason. And also, this is an interesting situation, and I think an interesting move by the prosecution, because normally changes in venue are made by and started by the defense. So in this case, what they're doing by the prosecution taking it on, they're working, one, to ensure that the defendant does get a fair trial, and two, they're really taking the issue off the table so that it doesn't come back and bite them later on appeal. So I think it's an interesting move. I think it's a good move.
Yeah, don't create an issue here when you don't have to. Kelly, there's something else afoot here. One wonders whether any federal judge can really be fair and impartial here, given that one of their colleagues was gunned down. And then factor in this. Let's put it on the screen. The very day of the killings, the Chief Justice of the United States Supreme Court issued this statement. I'm not going to read all of it, but the violence in Arizona he called senseless, taking 5 lives, inflicting tragic loss. We in the judiciary have suffered a terrible loss. It goes on and on. My goodness. Wouldn't you as the defense attorney claim, hey, wait a minute, the Chief Justice of the U.S. Supreme Court has prejudged and prejudiced the case against your client?
Absolutely. I'd make that argument unequivocally. I would say that while I understand this strikes close to home for him, it wasn't his position to say this. He's already now shown a bias. This guy's going to have a real hard time getting a fair trial because while it was an attack, a judiciary victim, the judge was a victim. It doesn't look like it was calculated for this judge, but the Chief Justice's statement makes it sound like this judge was targeted, and I don't think that's the case.
Dan, I want to hit one other subject, and that is punishment here, the death penalty. As you know, the Supreme Court has said you can be competent to stand trial, and in fact, you can be legally sane at the time the crime was committed, but nevertheless, the 8th Amendment can prohibit execution if you're suffering from a pretty severe mental disturbance. Do you see that coming into play here?
I see it coming into play, and I don't think it's going to be successful based upon everything that we've seen in this situation, based upon all the background information. But certainly the defense will use it. I just don't think that it's going to work. I think that there's simply too much evidence here that this was a rational trier in this situation. If I'm on the defense, I'm certainly going to be arguing those things. I might even use Chief Justice Roberts' statement calling the crime senseless, meaning senseless without thought, without rational thought. But ultimately, I think these are going to be very, very tough issues for a defense to win in a courtroom.
All right. Kelly Saindon, Don Conaway, good to see you both. Thanks so much.
Thanks,
Pleasure,
Greg.
Jenna?
Well,